Thanks very much, and it's great to see such a big crowd here to hear a bottom feeder speak. So, but today what I'd like to talk about is not James and his perspective on what I do, but my perspective on the industry on this your 21st anniversary. It's an interesting thing, anniversaries. There's a cycle in astrology. The reason we celebrate 21st and not 18th birthdays, even though 18 is when you can drink and drive a car, is that illogical to anyone else? You get to drink and drive at the same time. But anyway, your 18th birthday. 21 is important because there's a really poorly named astrological effect called the generic cycle of Uranus. And what that is every 7 years your life will change. So from birth to 7, 7 to 14, 14 to 21. Standing here before you, I'm 49, so I'm starting a new cycle. But the Brisbane, the BARS, the Brisbane Advertising Association, your new cycle is also just beginning. And the question is, has advertising come of age? And that's what I'd like to address today. Now clearly, while the Brisbane Advertising Association is 21, advertising is not 21. Advertising is the second oldest profession in the world. When we got the oldest profession, the very first thing we need to do is advertising. So what we have is an industry that was around from time immemorial, but advertising as we know it today actually started about 150 years ago. In the mid-1800s, media sellers started including content in the space that they were selling. So that's where the modern advertising agency came from. But in some ways, while the Brisbane Advertising Association is 21 years, there's been a huge revolution in our industry only in the last 15 years. And that is in the mid-90s, the digital or technology revolution has driven a huge change in the way we do business. So the question I actually want to ask is advertising a teenager? Is it an adult? Or is it older? If we're a teenager, then we're full of potential and possibility. And certainly when you talk to marketers about the digital revolution and the digital technology, all they see is possibility, but like teenagers, they also see confusion. How do we actually integrate, commercialise, use all of these new platforms to actually engage consumers in a more effective way? But it certainly has allowed us to take a fresh new and new approach to the way we talk about, sell and develop advertising. The other thing is, it's very much like a teenager because how many times do we make mistakes? And how often don't we listen to those that are probably more wise in the way we apply technology to our clients' solutions? I mean, the dot-com revolution and bust is pretty much a whole group of people who got very excited about new technology, put far too much money into it, and end up losing a lot of money. So are we teenagers? Or perhaps we're adults. Maybe here on the start of the 22nd year, as an industry, we're mature and dynamic. You know, building on our existing skills, commanding a presence and a level of trust from our clients. And that's not just marketers, but it's agencies and the media themselves. You know, we're integrating and quickly trying to come to terms with how to integrate the new challenges and opportunities into our businesses in a way that is sustainable and cost effective. In a very mature, enough and dynamic way. Or perhaps maybe advertising is older, you know, wise and experienced. You know, the underlying principles are certainly the same. The way we sell, the way we develop strategy, even the way that, you know, I used to work as a creative, a copywriter, with an art director, is still the same and the same as it's been since 1965. There are certain principles that haven't changed. There's certain wisdom that comes from the way we've always done business. Do we throw out the baby with the bathwater, or what is it that we take forward? What is it of the wisdom and the experience that we should be embracing today? flip side of all these stages of life is there's a downside. You know, because if we're teenagers, we can be anyone here with a teenager in the family. Sulking, sullen, sulky, morose, moody. And in fact, there's a lot of things about the industry at the moment, certainly from a marketer's perspective, which is very much like a sulky teenager. There's lots of whining and complaining. There's lots of blaming someone else. There's lots of not listening to good advice, or not listening at all. So maybe we are a self-centered, sulky, whining teenager. Perhaps we're arrogant and angry adults. Certainly we're under a lot of stress and pressure. Now with James Walker's comments about procurement and pitch doctors was driven by the fact that agencies and media providers are watching margins shrink all the time. And who's driving that? The bastards in procurement. It's those bloody pitch consultants. It's everyone else's fault, but it's not ours. But whose fault is it? Why have we seen margins under so much pressure? Who's responsible? Maybe we're grumpy and irrelevant. Bring your hand up for that one. You know, if you've been doing this for a long time, you deserve some respect. You deserve to be listened to. Why is it that everyone's jumping for the new? Why is it that the fresh and the different is getting everyone's attention? We've been here for 40 years selling this media. We've been delivering audiences for 40 years. Why are they racing off and buying that online stuff? Everyone knows that the metrics are flawed. But increasingly, the danger is that being seen out of date, being seen irrelevant to marketers' needs. But what are their needs? It really hasn't changed. They still want to reach audiences, they still want to engage, they still want to drive sales, but they're under more pressure than ever before to deliver value. And this is why we've seen procurement so heavily involved in this space. Because we can no longer just expect to spend the budget and allow it to move on to the next year. Sorry. The characteristics and attributes that determine maturity, what are they? How do we know that we're an adult? How do we know if we're coming of age? Well, the first one is taking responsibility for your decisions and actions. Now, there's a whole lot of industry complaints, and I know because most of them are delivered to me one way or another, and that is, first of all, procurement is driving down margin. The second is remuneration is disappearing and unfair and unsustainable. And the third is the pitching process is also a waste of time and money and also not delivering the results that everyone needs. The interesting thing is, let's look at each of those in isolation. First of all, procurement. Procurement does not reduce margin. There's an old saying that the seller sets the price, the buyer sets the terms. So if the margin's going down, it's only because the seller is willing to reduce the price. Now we run a lot of pitches, and the things we've found is that agencies, media and creative agencies, are increasingly relying on price to sell what they do. And that's a fundamental failure on their part in sales, actually proving the value that they produce. The second is remuneration is also dropping. Remuneration is dropping because there is no link for a marketer between the money they spend on advertising and the value it creates, excluding direct response advertising. Brand advertising, positioning advertising, awareness advertising, there's lots of metrics there, but for the CFO sitting in a major corporation, the only thing that matters is profitability. Peter Drucker said the only purpose of marketing is to drive margin. Only purpose of marketing. And yet we've fundamentally failed to make the connection between the things that we do and the things that we sell to our clients and our ability to drive margin. So what's happened is that industry now sees us as a cost.